my eyes kind of closed. It was kind of like the curtains going down, right? But the curtain was kind of going down this fashion. It was like, okay, well, you know, that's it. And as the curtain was going down, my eyes are going, I remember seeing a hand go like this over his hand, and 2 flashes went in my face. And I stood there for a second, and I was like, definitely took a couple shots to the face.
What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for tapping into REI Allies podcast. My name is Ahmad Sugar. I am your host on the show today, here with my partner, Rich Wonders.
Yes. What's up, guys? Glad to have you here. REI Allies, we're a group of real estate investor go-getters. We like to collaborate. We like to share stories, information, share resources, help each other. I'm a wholesaler nationwide, acquisitions trainer. Got my boy Ahmad here.
Apparently history too, so we're doing a quick history. I'm a licensed real estate agent here in the state of Arizona. I'm a real estate investor and then real estate entrepreneur. Anywhere from flipping properties to owning rentals to short-term rentals and so much more. But we're not here to talk about us. We are here because we have a special guest with a phenomenal story. My man, Ray Spencer. Thank you so much for tapping in and blessing us.
Thank you for having me, bro. Thank you, bro.
Our pre-show conversation has been fire, bro.
I was recording the whole time.
Fire, so I appreciate that. I always good to have a good conversation. Thank you for coming out, man.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for having me.
How you feeling?
Amazing.
Feel good?
Amazing.
It's good, man.
Amazing. Just had a reset. I'm huge on resetting.
Yeah, you weren't camping, right?
Yeah.
Tell us more about that. A little bit. How is that?
The camping's good. Me and my team, we go camping. We do something. Like for me is there's something about the mind that if you pump it, it's like a pipe. At some point it burst, right? So before letting this pipe burst, I agreed to a concept that's like you need to reset and either slow it down or just stop the flow of things coming in.
Right.
So we do a reset, and this time we just happened to go camping. Guys had too much on their plate. Let's get out. Let's go enjoy the river. Let's go join the earth. Let's go see other different human beings and, hi, what's up, what's going on? Get away and really tap into something different than pressure.
Love that. I love that. Because you're 90% energy as a human.
Yeah. I think it's higher than that. I think it's higher than
you
that.
You are. It's 10% matter, 5% matter. The rest is energy. Everything that drives you is energy. So I used to do this thing where I do get really stressed out. I'd go to the park and I'd take my shoes off and put my feet in the grass and just like wiggle my feet in the grass because it made me feel like recharged, reconnected. Because think about it.
What does that remind you of?
Running barefoot back home. But if you think about it, I mean, right now we're all wearing socks. We're all touching carpet. We're all touching laminate flooring. We're gonna put on our shoes and go out walking. We're never gonna touch earth. We may, touch like a flower in our hand, but how often do you touch a plant? But we are meant to be barefoot. We're meant to be connecting with the earth at that level. So I this might be very hippie of me, but I love being able to connect with that. So I want to tap into your story a little bit, man. I hear you have an incredible, very inspiring journey. And we kind of got into it a little bit before the show. But for everybody that's watching out there right now, who's Ray Spencer? And give us as much as you'd like to share, man.
So to answer that, I don't know. I don't think I'll ever know. I'm always figuring out who Ray Spencer is.
Are we all?
Yeah. I mean, there's some people like, I am this person.
Yeah.
Some people have that concept. I don't. My concept of self is loose.
I like that.
I don't really have a concept of self. I'm always trying to me, I'm like water, right? And there was a thing with Bruce Lee who said something about if you put water in a cup, it
becomes the cup.
I love the cup, right? Like I think human beings, we're that person. We're water. We're formless, right? We can become anything we want to become, right? There's your past self, future self, right, and your present self. So Ray Spencer's human. Ray Spencer's a person who's trying to live, trying to explore myself and other people, and kind of showing people that you can be more than just you. You can be more than you. You can be bigger than you, and developing that. So that's kind of where Ray started.
Yeah. So to be more specific, I want to dive into the journey of Ray Spencer, right? You were born out of Arizona, correct? Like you weren't born here. California. Okay. Riverside. And start there. How did things escalate for you to come to the US or Arizona, and what was that like?
So I was born in Riverside, California. My dad was NFL player for a little bit. I think he played a couple teams, or he tried out for a few teams, San Francisco 49ers. So we ended up moving from there to the Bay Area. I grew up in the Bay Area for a little bit, from Vallejo to Oakland to San Francisco. My dad had something going on with some knee problems. He left us and moved to Michigan. And my mom was there, and we jumped from Michigan to Colorado to New Mexico to Texas to Nevada, back to California, and we finally made our way here to Arizona, probably 1992. I want to say, don't quote me on that number.
How old were you at that time?
I remember the year, but I was 12 when I moved out here.
Gotcha.
I was 12.
Gotcha.
I was 12. We came from New Mexico. I was just telling you guys a story where my mother moved on the Hispanic side, and it was my first introduction to A, Hispanics, B, gangs at the same time. And I got to learn that there's different cultures that exist. There's different rules and regulations to certain people. And how people live and how people developed and grow. I was telling you guys about the gangs. They were like, grandma was in the gang, all the kids were in a gang, and those are people like I was fighting with for the longest time, which caused us to move from New Mexico to Phoenix, Arizona. And from there, I've been kind of searching. My whole perspective is, I think I was hurt. Growing up, no father, right, around. He was there, but he was not there. He was, jail, prison, huge con artist, the stuff that he was into. And I think I was hurt. I was looking for a father figure. I was in that young, prime age, you're hitting puberty. And once we hit Arizona, I got more attracted to the streets than anything. Like the streets was like the one thing was like.
Yeah. This is where you can feel a sense of belonging.
Yeah. And that to me became home for me. A little bit too much home for me. And it created, for me in all honesty, it created a monster for me, because I was hurt, right? And coming from a place of hurt, if you think of an animal, right, that's been attacked and you come near it, right, it's definitely gonna try to lash out at you. Mm-hmm. So that's how I was as a young preteen, and I got more deep into gangs and I got introduced to gangs, and I got introduced to a lifestyle that I liked, with hustlers, with people who were making money, and I thought these people were real men, right, because they were, I guess, essentially taking care of business, in a sense, and it led me to. You want me to go deep into it? Or?
Hey, as deep as you want to go.
Yeah, man.
I think it's incredible.
Yeah,
I think people.
We owe it to our people.
Like,
I think that's
Wholesale Sharks. Like, I had no clue, like, that any of like your history, and like when you say that you're formless and can't transform, like that hits hard, because I can tell, like, you're not like the person you described in that story. Like, is not the same person that's here. Like, it's still in you. You know what I mean? But I think that it's just completely wild. I mean, you can go into it as much as you want.
So, it's a vulnerable story for me. I don't like to talk about it, but a lot of people influence me to put it out there. The reason why I don't like it because I feel like it's not me to this day, and it doesn't represent who Ray is now, but it is me. So my story is I got heavily deep into gangs, and I was living on the west side. I was hanging out with certain people. I was part of the Crip gang I used to hang out with, and I had this one guy who I would see at parties who was a blood, and one day we just got into a little fight. I was dancing with some girl, and we got in a little fight. And for there, we were like enemies, like arch enemies. Like I see him and anybody he hung out with, like it was just on. And I caught him one day from a 7-Eleven. It was him and a buddy. And it was me and another buddy. And we walked up to him, we're like, okay, we're gonna check these guys out and see what they're made of. So we walk over to him and we had him, what's up? What you guys doing over here? And they're like, oh man, nothing. I'm like, we're chilling, we're hanging out. And we said, okay, what you guys got? So we started hitting their pockets and checking like, what you guys got? Nobody got anything. Okay, where the money at? Where the drugs at? And they were like, oh, we don't have anything. And we're really pressing these guys about what they're doing and what they on the wrong side of the tracks. Like, what are you guys doing over here? And I don't know what happened in an instant, but I used to carry a jackhammer on me. I told you guys I was in a Marvel, so I thought it was Thor. And I used to carry this jackhammer, and I pulled the jackhammer out, and I threw it at the guy's head. And it literally just kind of, like he looked at it like it was the slowest moving object on planet Earth. And he just kind of looked at it and moved to the side. And out of nowhere, it was kind of game on. Like I knew it missed, and I was like, okay, I got to get this guy, right? So I move in close to grab him, and he puts a gun to my head. And in that instant, your life flashes before you, of course. And you remember like when you were 3 and 2 and mom picking you up and you're just like, okay, this is it. And my eyes kind of closed. It was kind of like the curtains going down, right? But the curtain was kind of going down this fashion. It was like, okay, well, that's it. And as the curtain was going down, my eyes are going, I remember seeing a hand go like this over his hand, and 2 flashes went in my face. And I stood there for a second. And I was like, definitely took a couple shots to the face. And I opened my eyes and I was still alive. And I was like, okay. And I noticed that they're running across the street, right? And I'm like, well, they got the guns. Why are they running, right? So I was like, okay. So I started running the opposite direction. And I ran in the opposite direction. And I'm just like I got to be like,
check, yeah.
Going down here in a few seconds. I wasn't. I ran about a block. I ran about a block with my buddy, and then as I was running, I noticed I couldn't move my legs anymore. And I started to walk towards this house, and I fell in the driveway, and I was like, yo, man, I can't walk anymore. He was like, oh, man, don't tell me that. I was like, I can't walk anymore. So I laid in. I'm laying on my back. I'm looking up in the sky, and he takes off. He panics. He takes off, and I'm just sitting there, and next thing you know, I'm like, there's a pool of blood in me, and I can feel it like with my hands. I don't know where it's coming from, but I feel like I'm in a pool of blood. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is probably it. This is probably it for me. And I remember a Hispanic lady came out, and oh man, she was gorgeous. That's all I remember. But she was like an angel to me. She was so beautiful, and she just looked over me, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good." She was like, "All right, we're gonna take care of you." I was like, "Okay," and took me to the hospital. I ended up getting shot in my leg and in my foot. I don't know how it happened. For me, I believe it was an act of God, because somehow something like lowered his aim and he shot me in my leg and my foot. And for me, that angered me as a person. That I mentioned this. I felt like Tupac at the time. I kind of had that like, who shot me mentality, and you didn't finish the job, right? You really messed up.
Right.
So, got out the hospital. From that point, I'm like hunting this dude down. I'm like looking for him. Like I'm letting everybody know. Like you see him, let him know. Like I'm looking for him. I'm looking for him. Come see me, come find me, come, you know, whatever. Here's my address. Come on by. Let's talk. Let's handle this. Never really found the guy. I ended up doing I was hooked on drugs. I was an alcoholic at the time. This is at 14. So 14, I was alcoholic. Me and my buddies were trying to get drunk. We ended up robbing a store, and we didn't get any of the money. We were all on camera, no mask, right, like idiots. And my buddy's the one who he told on me, and I learned the concept of friendship through that, and who really has your back. And I ended up getting 15 years from it. They actually gave me 30. So the DA offered me 30, and I actually said yes to the 30 years. And when I was gonna get sentenced in front of the judge, there was like a plea agreement they had to give you, right? So they gave me, it was like, we'll give you 30 years, and I was like, all right, well, I'll take it. I mean, I guess that's a good deal, right? That's what I thought. I was 14, I didn't know any better. And the next time we did it, we're gonna go in front of the judge, and whatever they're gonna have me sign, like I was gonna have to sign, but I had to have a parent there. And my mother was there with me. And at this time, it was the first time I met my attorney. I never seen my attorney, never talked to the lady. It was like the first time I ever met her, and she was there at this time, and mom's there. So we're like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna give you 15, right? I said, sure. I was like, well, we're gonna sign it. We're gonna take care of it and give you 15 years, right? And I remember when I got the sentence, I see my mother, like we locked eyes as a human being. And oh man, she broke. Like she straight just like
I just saw my mom. Damn, bro.
She broke.
Jeez.
Like I looked in her eyes and I was like, I couldn't look at her at that point, right? Because it was for me it was I had to be tough.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, I got plenty of time to worry about this later, and my mom just like withered down to like a baby to me, and it was tough.
Yeah.
I had to be in a position where my mindset was set on nothing could break me from that point. I was like, nothing can break me from this point. So they gave me 15. I went in to the judge, and the judge said, that's too much time. Right, we're gonna give you 11 years flat. We'll give you. And I went in. So 14, went in. By the time I hit prison, I was 15. Here, it's separated from the adults. Adults on one side, juveniles on the other side. And oh man, I was a monster. I was such a monster on the inside. And I was so angry at everybody in life. I was like, this is what God has put me against, then so be it. So be it. So when I went in, man, I was trying to terrorize everybody. Anybody, like you wanted it, you can get it. My nickname in prison was Maniac. That's what they used to call me. And I would fight anybody, officers, whoever. And I just kept causing ruckus and ruckus and ruckus and ruckus. And it didn't happen until later on that I had a moment where I was a laundry guy. I did the laundry, and I had a best friend who was Hispanic. He was Mexican, and you're in there. You really can't link up with people like that. You can't be that cool, that close. And they would tell him like, "Hey, you guys gotta, separate." I didn't care. And one day, I ended up finding him in the shower, dead, and I had to shut the door. Everybody knew like the closet was the closet for people who did the laundry. They called it a laundry porter. I went in, I seen him, and I was just kind of like, damn, that sucks, right? Like that happened. So I had to shut the door. I went back to my cell, and I locked down. And the officer, who I definitely didn't get along with, noticed that I was in there. And he came up because they found him, and they tried to pull me out for questioning, and was like, Ray, you know something. We need to pull you down for some questioning. And that's an absolute no-no, right? So I told him, nah, bro, I'm not going. He was like, well, we're going to pull you down. So he went to call somebody, and I hit him with 2 punches, straight to the chin, knocked him out. And I walked around the pod, and I told anybody got questions to ask for me, you'll get the same thing. I went back to my cell. So it took me to the hole. The warden came out, and she came to the door and was like, Spencer, why you causing so much stuff on my yard? And I told her, F you, if you wanted it, you can get it too. And she was like, you sure? I was like, yeah. Well, pop the door. What's up? Open it up. So to my surprise, I'm a little short Hispanic lady, she opened the door. And I was like, oh, man. I was like, she called my bluff, right? And I was like, all right, now I gotta make a move. So I spit a noogie in her face, right in her eye. And I watched it drip, and she looked at me like, okay, all right, you messed up. You messed up. Locked me in there, and she put me in the hole for 4 years. Naked. No sheets, no bed. I'm on concrete and steel.
4 years.
Yeah. 4 years. So 2 years of that, I was good. The place they put me in was all the crazy people. Like all the people that are yelling, screaming, throwing feces, you name it. This is like the people I'm like there with. I'm just like all this violence. And I was good. I was really, really good. Up until about 2 years, like it started to get with me. And there's a point when you're in there, you count every crack, you count every bug, every door, every hole, like you start to count little things. And I noticed that my mind was playing with me. I was having conversations with myself. And myself was telling me, nah, you're gonna break. I was like, nah, ain't nothing breaking me. And they would be like, yeah, you're gonna break. I'm like, nah, man, screw you. Can I cuss?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
all right.
Tell
So-
that story. Come on, man. Of course you can cuss after that.
I was telling myself like, nah, fuck you. Nothing's gonna break me. And it was like, yeah, we know the truth. You'll break. Right? And the truth of me is I was never this hardcore person. I've always been soft. But I wore this shell because I had to be tough for, reasons of just being tough. I a wounded child. So I had something to have. I had to have something to protect me. You know what I mean? And that was that shell. And myself knew that. And they would taunt me every day. Like, you gonna break, bro. And I was like, bro, there's nothing breaking me. And I'm not sure what happened, when it happened. I don't even know how long I was even in the cell, but absolutely no thoughts, no nothing. I literally lost my mind inside of prison. And I didn't come back until I was in the hospital, and I woke up, and I thought the doctor was choking me, but he's actually putting a tube down my throat. So I snatched the tube, and I grabbed him by his neck, and I'm holding on to him because I think he's trying to hurt me. And he's just frightened, and I see it, like we lock eyes like two human beings, and I see him like he's scared, and I was like, okay, he ain't trying to hurt me. And I let him go, and he runs off, and he grabs the officers, and they come back, and they're just like, oh, okay, he's good. Let's take him back. So they take me back, they throw me back in the same cell, and I'm just like, fuck, bro. I was like, I can't do it. I cannot do it. I will not do it. I was like, I fucking cannot do this again. I was like, I'm not gonna do any more time of this. No way. So I was committed to myself. I was like, I needed something to occupy my mind. So there used to be a psych lady who would come by, and she would give out pills, right? They're like, hey, the crazy people pills. And she was like, hey, Ray, you want your pills? And I was like, nah. I was like, give me a book. Like, give me something like can like occupy my mind, please. I was like, I need a book. I'm begging you, give me a book. She was like, nope. And she slammed the trap. And she would do this for like a week. And one day I was like, she gonna give me a book. She's gonna give me a book, bro. I'm not losing this battle. She's gonna give me a book. So she came to give me pills, and she's like, hey, you want the pills today? And I said, you know what? Yeah, I'll take my pills. And she put her hand in the trap, right? And I grab her, and I lock her elbow, and she's with the officer. And I was like, yo, you gonna give me a book? I'm gonna snap your fucking arm. And she was an asshole before. But there I seen her, she was terrified. She was absolutely terrified. And the officer with her, they had a big can of bear mace, and he put it in my face, and it's expensive. If you don't let her go, I'm gonna burn your eyes out. I said, well, this bitch ain't getting armed if you do. And we had this moment where everybody was just, we all locked eyes like, who gonna make the first move? It was a real tense moment, and I felt it, right? It was a real tense moment, right? And I was like, I'm holding on. I'm like, I'm not letting this girl's arm. Like, I'm gonna break this mother sucker. Like, I just asked for a book. Give me a book. I'm gonna break it. And the dude's looking at me like Spence, don't do it, right? Like, he's holding mace to my face, and he's like, bro, don't make me do this. I don't want to do this, right? And the lady is terrified, and I look at her, I see how terrified she was, and I was like, okay. And we had a human moment for a little brief second. We had a human moment. And she didn't want to be hurt. She wasn't trying to hurt me. And I kind of noticed like she was trying to do her job. And we locked eyes. We looked at each other. And I was like, all right, I let her go. A few weeks later, that same officer threw a book, Psycho-Cybernetics, I still have the book today. I could have brought it. He threw a book in my cell. And that was the only thing. Like, when I went in, I was 14. I think I had like a 6th grade literacy. I really couldn't read that well. I can read, but not that well. So he threw a book in there. It was probably the hardest book I had to learn how to read. There's words I didn't, understand, or I just read what I could read. And man, the book was phenomenal. It taught me how to set goals. It taught me how to control my emotions, my mind. It taught me how to project images of myself. It taught me how to really maintain my mind and think outside of myself without letting myself lose control. And it helped me survive the next 2 years. Like, at that point, with that book, I was unbreakable. It was like my Bible. It was my manual. It was my Quran. And I read it every day. Like, I couldn't put it away, bro. From there, I was still. I was locked in. And I started to understand, like, as my mind developed, my vocabulary developed. The way I talked to people was different, right? And it was so much so that they literally came down, the warden came down one day, and she talked to me. We had a little conversation, and she was kind of like, he's kind of changed. He's a little bit different. And they let me out. And that for me was like the awakening of my life from that point. Like, from there, I was sound. Nothing can break me at that point. I read a lot. I started to read a lot of books. I would go to the library. I became a paralegal, which helps me in real estate for creative financing, because I understand contracts. And it really pushed me to a point where I know if I can control my mind, my mindset. And I worked on my skill sets on how to speak, how to talk, how to greet people, how to have a good handshake. Just the little things in life that actually build you up as a person, that I started to develop a concept of myself. And I started to develop, man, I can almost be anything I want to be if I worked at it, right? If I build that skill, it's there. No one ever noticed that I'm this probably little scared, crazy maniac person, right? I can actually change that, and I can be something different, whoever I wanted to be. And I started to learn these concepts, and I would literally devour books and be like, oh shit. And I had at the rooftop, somebody, I don't know, were you at the rooftop? First event I had? No? Okay. So somebody asked a question, and they asked, what was that oh shit moment for you when you were doing acquisitions? And mine was in prison. So mine was, I was reading The Art of Seduction, 48 Powers of Law, were the books that I was reading. And there was an officer.
48 Laws of Power.
48 Laws of Power.
Yeah.
Right? So I was reading these books, and they're really influencing my mind, really, really crazy. There was an officer, a female officer. She was in there, everything is race, right? So she was with the whites, and all the white guys like had her, right? She did whatever the white guys wanted her to do. She was under their control. And I came out one day, and she was inside her tower in tears. And I asked her, like, why are you crying? Right? She was like, oh, nothing. I was like, nah, like, why are you crying? Like, I'm serious. Like, I should be crying. Like, why are you crying? And she was like, these guys just don't want to lock down. I was like, okay. I was like, well, I'm gonna get in my shower and I'm gonna lock down. She was like, okay. So I did that, and right before I locked down, I told her, hey, you know, why do you let these guys out if they don't do what you asked them to do? She's like, oh, I don't know. I was like, well, what if I needed a shower or something, or I needed to get out and pass something around on that lockdown? Would you be cool if I asked and I just did that? She was like, yes. And I noticed she did that for me a few times. At that point, I had her hooked, right? I would do what I need to do, and I would go lock down, and she would be grateful for it. And she started letting me out, and she trusted me. And I had it set up where I can let out anybody I wanted if I let her. You know, hey, open this door, open that door, open that door. And she did almost anything I wanted. And I know that the department, like, I had this, like, influence, this gift, this little, I was like, damn, I've never had that before. I think I just influenced somebody.
You negotiated.
I negotiated something. Yeah. And there was a trust. Yeah. There was some honesty in there. There was, I don't know, bro, I don't know what it was, but whatever whatever the books I was reading, I was like, oh, this is power. I love this. This is power. And it developed me into the person I am today.
That's amazing, man. That's incredible, bro. That's incredible.
So how far into your sentence was that, and what was it like getting out and then being back in regular society after doing all that time? And you know, you learned all these rules in prison that don't necessarily apply once you're out to being successful.
Yeah, most people who go in for time, they get out and they have no idea what to do.
It's very difficult, very stressful for a lot of people.
Yes. I have a lot of friends who are the same. For me, as I understood the development of my mind, right? So as long as I had control over my mind, I can do what I want, I can be what I want, and I can actually control my environment. This is my environment, right? I can't control you, I can't control you, I can't control you, I can't control anybody. But this, I got some type of control over, some type of influence on it. So whatever I wanted to do, I knew what I needed to do is I needed to learn, I needed to study. And the moment that happened for me was, I want to say 8 years in. 8 years in is 7 years in is when I first went to the hole. Once I went through that, getting out for me was easy, like super easy. Like I had a moment where I had a fight with my cellmate because I put my TV to the side, and I wouldn't let him watch TV. I think he was into sports and he didn't have a TV, and I put my TV and I put it to the side, and I was like, yo, bro, we're not watching TV today, right? And he kind of jumped up, young guy, he was like, jumped up like, what? Like, the game is on. I was like, I don't care, it's mine. Like, we're not doing that today. And I was studying how to do interviews. I was studying how to do resumes. I was studying, like, where do I find a place? And I started to take my mind out of prison. I started to put it, like, I'm getting out. So I need to focus on, like, what does getting out look like? I've been in here since a teenager. So I started reading, studying stuff, and I would have time segments put aside where I would actually study what does living outside of this world look like. And that's what I would feed my mind with. And me and him had a good little fight, a couple hours, over a TV, and I ended up giving the TV to him after a while. But I learned that, like, his concept was so, like, that was his world, right? And I had mine. And for me, it changed me where his mind was in, my mind was out, right? And I noticed for me to get out of this box, I gotta think outside of the box, right? I got to think outside of this box, and I started to study every book I can find. I would find it. Every resource I can get, I would get it. I learned how to do resumes by the time I got out. I learned how to find jobs. I learned who hires ex-cons, which is construction. Those are like the first jobs I look for. I look what skills that I need to put on a resume, and I already had my resume like ready by the time I got out. So by the time I got out, like, I was ready. I put money to the side. For a place. I was gonna go to a halfway house. My brother talked me into staying with him, and I got a day job. I went to a day labor place, and they gave me a job like that, and I never looked back.
It's very interesting about you and the cellmate, because it's very symbolic of, like, people today, because, like, yeah, I mean, most society, people are doing what? trying to watch the game. They're in the moment. They're in the present. They're in the right now. And I think we live in such an instant gratifying world that it supplements that. Like, I watch TV. It makes me feel good. I'm good. I go, do drugs. It makes me feel good. I'm here in the moment. I'm good. For you, is like being in the hole. It was a battle of like me versus me. It wasn't about anybody else. Had nothing to do with the warden. Had nothing to do with your family. It had nothing to do with anything outside of you. But it was just you trying to prove to yourself that you could do it. You can really, really like outperform what everybody expected you to do, which is fold, and you didn't. And I think that book that gave you that little bit of hope, hope of like understanding that. I think that people experience this all the time, and I think that we're at pinnacle moment in it in society where people have always been accustomed to even the idea of real estate. Buy real estate and hold it, right? Wait for generational wealth through real estate. That's not necessarily the case anymore. I mean, that idea has changed. Now it's more important to have cash flow than it is to have a property, to have a piece of land. What is a piece of land going to do for you? 30 years out, maybe, yeah, you can see some appreciation. Don't rely on the long-term appreciation. Rely on the cash flow, because that's an asset that can depreciate. But the point is, like, we do these things in modern day society that we look back at history and kind of learn from. But your personal experience through it all, I think it really encompasses like time as a different concept than what it is being out, right? Because you were just boxed in, you were, put into position where you were forced to count countless things, right? Like count the railings, count the holes, count the cracks, count this, count that. 2 years of that, your body or your brain had reached a point where it couldn't think of anything else. It was like memory full. Like, yo, I'm maxed out, bro. So that book, that knowledge, really gave you that light at the end of the tunnel. So that by the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th book, you were already ahead of the Ray that was 6 months ago or 4 years ago when he first entered the hole. And I think that's super interesting because people do experience this every single day. And unfortunately, the difference is, for you, it was like, I can't wait to implement this shit, versus, wow, I'm learning so much. This is so cool. I'm so motivated, but I have no idea what to do. Right? That analysis paralysis. Like, how many people do you see go through that every single day? Tons. Every single day, bro. I think that is the biggest crippling factor in society today, is because I fall victim to it too. There are things that I know in my head that I know I can do, but I'm just, at whatever reason, it stops you from like actually pursuing that because you're overwhelmed with information. For you, construction was into real estate, essentially, right? So how was your journey through construction? How did that, the new Ray that came out, right? That new Ray. And I love that you said, when you first started, you said you're just a free-flowing, form. Like you don't know what Ray is, because, you can never say never, dude. Like you can become anything you freaking want to, because who you were versus who you've become is very inspirational. It's very admirable. So for you, tapping into real estate now, I see you doing some phenomenal things, and you're touching people's hearts, not just by your story, but also by your success and your ability to overcome those obstacles. Like, how has that influenced your life today, Ray today? And what tell us more about construction, real estate right now. What is happening?
So the path I hit was construction, and I went into construction for real estate because I ended up reading, somebody gave me a Dean Gracioso book. It was like the first real estate book I ever read. And I learned about putting up bandit signs. I didn't even know what none of this was. I just remember reading it like, I gotta put this out. I gotta get out. I gotta do these. I gotta put the bandit signs or whatever these things are. Yeah. So I decided that the best way to get into real estate was construction, which I also learned is the first and highest industry that hires ex-cons, right? So I was like, I'm in.
Right.
I'm all the way in. And the moment I got out, I got a day labor job. I worked that bad boy till my back went out. That's how hard I worked. And the only people who were giving me jobs at that time were Hispanics. I got huge love for Hispanics. I worked with a whole crew that was all Spanish speaker. Like no one spoke any English on the crew. And I developed this love for these people, right? Because here I am, they didn't have to give me a shot, but they gave me a shot. I'm working like a dog. And these people have a whole different, like Mexicans have a whole different concept of work. Like they work like 12 hours, no water. I'm like, yo, where's the water at, right? And they're just like, water, who needs water, right? Let's just get water in the morning.
Here's a
right?
beer.
Right? Like, there was a different concept, and I learned how to develop a work ethic, a fierce work ethic. I learned like you can survive and push pretty hard. You can push your body pretty hard if you keep going. And I got a construction. I ended up doing framing for a while. I was doing roofs for a while. I ended up getting a job at a construction company that was doing concrete. It was called Suntech. It was the first job I got, first real job I got, because now I had experience doing framing and everything, and I was like, yo, I'm a good carpenter. So this job was like, oh, we're looking for good carpenters. And they were paying, I think, $15 an hour. And I got into that, and I was good at it. I was good at doing concrete. I was good at running teams. I was good at building stuff. And I can see designs in my mind. Like there's something about me being locked down for so long that I have been contemplating on just like, I just want to do something. And I can see it. And it helped me with my vision because I can only see it, right? I couldn't just actually do it. So it helped me develop like good vision, good concept of how things should go and how they should be developed. So it's pretty good in construction. I spent maybe 7 years in construction. I actually worked my way up. I got bored. So every time I reached another level, I went from foreman all the way up to running 2 or 3 crews. Then I learned that my next jump was to be a supervisor. I didn't want to be a supervisor because I learned that safety guys made more money than the supervisor, and they have all the headaches. And the safety guy is like king everything on a construction site. So I was like, well, what does it take to become a safety guy? And I learned to take just a few courses. And I actually went to ASU to take a few courses. I went to the University of San Diego and flew out and took a few courses. And I got certified with OSHA. I got certified with all the equipment. And I became really, really good at learning. And one moment or one day I was making $90,000 a year. I got trapped. And I forgot my dream. I forgot the reason why I got into construction was to actually get into real estate. And I realized I'm stuck in this 9 to 5. How the hell do I get into real estate? And I went to this event. There used to be signs from this group called Renatus. They used to put up these, hey, free mentor looking for free mentee, right? So I called this number up and they were like, yeah, we're having an actual flip. Come on out. So I go to this flip and I meet Elijah Rubin, right? And I'm sitting in the front row and this guy's spitting on me, right? As he's talking, he's high energy. He says, yeah, you got to do this and the fire damage. And I'm just sitting there looking at it like, wow, this is like the best thing ever, right? And I was like, what is this? Like, what is wholesaling? What is this? I was like, this is what I'm about. And I gave Elijah a call, and he was like, hey, bro, you were talking about tax liens and stuff. Like, where can I get tax liens? And he told me, oh, just go down to the city. You get this little CD, and it has, it's called OTC, over-the-counter tax liens. I was like, bet. So I went, picked it up, started looking at all the tax liens, started calling everybody on it. I started to skip trace, and I started to post it. And he was like, okay, bro, you're the real deal. And I did that for probably about 3 months, working out really hard. And I couldn't get a deal, never got a deal. Bought a couple whack-ass tax liens, little roads. And I didn't get nothing for a while. I used to do Facebook ads. Not Facebook ads, I used to jump on yard sale groups. I used to jump on all the marketplace stuff on Facebook, and I would be the first one in there every morning, every day. Like when I got up, I used to go to work at 4 a.m. So I would get up in there and I'm like hitting everybody up, who's at houses, who has this. And I didn't know Facebook had the algorithm, but I was the first one to get notifications in all the groups. So it instantly notified me. And I had a guy who was an agent who posted early, like 5 o'clock in the morning. I was like, hey, I got a house, North Phoenix. You can't wholesale it. You have to be a buyer. You're gonna have to have proof of funds, right? So I messaged him. I'm like, hey, I want that, right? I'm a real buyer. Let me get the house. So he's like, cool. He's like, you can't wholesale it. I was like, I don't even know what wholesaling is, right? So I give him my number. I'm calling him, and I'm working on this deal. And at this time, I was talking to this guy named Jesse Burrell, and I told him I met him somewhere online, and I hit him up. I was like, hey, bro, I think I might have a deal for you. He was like, all right, shoot it to me. So I shoot it to him. He was like, what number do you have it at? I shot the number to it. I think I had it at like 110 is the number that I had it at. It came with a tenant. She had to be locked in on the lease for 6 months, but it was so heavily discounted, right? And he was like, bro, if you get that deal, he's like, I'll pay you, right? And I was like, bet.
Say less.
Bet. So I'm talking to the agent, and I sent the contract. I sent the contract to the guy, and I put it in my name. All right, but he said I couldn't wholesale it. So I shoot it to Jesse, and I was like, hey, bro, here we go. I got the contract. He was like, Ray, do you have an LLC? I was like, nah, like what I need an LLC for? He's like, well, how's this going to work?
Right.
I was like, shit, I don't know, bro. You tell me, like, what I got to do? He was like, well, first you need an LLC. You're going to pay some high taxes on this, right? And I was like, shit, I don't care. I'm trying to get paid. He's like, you can't wholesale it, so you're probably going to have to put it in my company's name. Right? And I was like, oh shit, okay. I was like, I gotta tell the agent this. And I was like, how am I gonna tell this agent?
Hey, agent, I gotta put it in the LLC.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I did, right? So I was like, hey, I put it in the wrong name.
Yeah.
I need to put it into my LLC. Right? He was like, oh, okay, that makes sense, right? So we do another agreement. I put it in the LLC. I sent it to Jesse, and I was like, all right, bro, I got it. And he said, Ray, I got something to tell you. I was like, what's up? He said, I gave you the wrong LLC, right? I was like, what does that mean, right? He was like, I gave you the wrong LLC. I was like, well, what does that mean, bro? He was like, you're gonna have to get it in my other LLC's name, right? I'm just like, oh man, bro. He was like, look, you're probably not gonna get this deal, right? Good luck, right? I'm like, this dude's asshole. So I called the agent back, and I kind of worked a little plan. I called the agent back and said, hey, look, I made a mistake. I put it in this LLC, but I remember you had a tenant in it. Right? We were going to have a tenant for 6 months. I said, well, I had put it in my company that does the flips, right? I needed to put it in my company that does the holds since we're going to have a tenant for the next 6 months. He was like, all right, man. He's like,
agents are so fucking
so he's
dumb,
like, all
bro.
right,
They
man.
was like, oh, okay. Okay.
He was a little hesitant, bro. He was like, all right. He was like, this is the last time. He's like, after this, bro, he's like, I got so many other people who would buy this property. I was like, I'm sorry, man. I was like, I just made a mistake. I forgot. I was like, let's get the deal done. Cool. Got the deal done. Made my first 10K.
Let's go.
Through Jesse Burrell.
Let's go.
First 10K.
That's awesome.
How long ago was that?
2018.
Nice.
2018.
And that was off a Facebook post that you just hopped on?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Realtors, man. Realtors got deals. That's how I got my first wholesale deal, bro. It was a $80K assignment, but I had to split it 3 ways, unfortunately. But it was a Zillow lead, a buyer who wanted to buy a house with me. I was an agent, and the lead's brother had a property, and the guy I didn't know what he was doing. Had a property, it was worth like $800. I got it. Clocked him for $425. I paid off his mortgage $400. Told him I'd give him $25,000 and walk away from it. House is falling apart. Sold it to an investor through Keegley. But yeah, man, realtors, we got some deals. So sorry, go ahead.
Majority of my deals come from realtors.
Huh?
Majority of my deals come from
Good.
realtors.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. We gotta do some deals. Some business.
Let's do it.
So that was your first deal. You popped your cherry. Mm-hmm. Congratulations.
Mm-hmm. Were you still doing construction at that point?
Yeah.
It was going 4 a.m. He was getting to work.
I did I did the whole F you, you're cool. After that point, I quit and went all in.
What did that look like for you? That transition?
Oh, scary.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, bro. It was exciting and scary at the same time. But I was ready. I was super ready. I've been in construction for so long. I was like, this is my chance. I finally made it. I proved everybody wrong who was doubting me. Like, what are you doing? What are you, like, meetups, different, like, people you're hanging out with? Like, Ray, stick to construction. Like, you're not a real estate investor. And even my family members were kind of like, they didn't know what the hell I was doing. They didn't know what I was into. And they were just like, all right, whatever. You and that real estate stuff, stay over there. Right. For me, it put me in a mode where I had to prove something all over again. I had to prove that I'm no longer a construction worker. I'm now a real estate investor. That was my mindset. And it was a tough mindset because I didn't understand shit about business. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
You did it once, though. You had to prove you're not just a thug or a convict. You're a decent man who's trying to make a living in society. You did that. You proved that. Now this was the next pivotal moment for you.
It's REI 5.0.
So that's the hard thing, right? Is I learned there's a crazy thing in real estate. I don't know if it applies to every industry, but that repeat, oh man. Like that, like, can I repeat another Facebook deal, right?
Yeah.
Didn't happen. So I noticed that I got lucky. That was luck. So I was like, how can I repeat this process, right? And make my second deal. And I ended up doing 6 deals. From that point, I made $80,000. My first year, wholesaling, I was wholesaling everything. Vacant land, a mobile home, a couple houses, and I actually blew all of my money. I bought cars.
No way. New wholesaler blow. There's no way. I don't believe it.
That's everybody. Everybody does that. Everybody does that. Everybody does that.
Absolutely.
Right? But I started blowing my money, right? And I remember Alex Saenz had a challenge. I remember he went to Hawaii, right, with Carlos Reyes and Charles Shakur. He threw out a challenge. He was like, hey, I challenge you guys to take your family on a cruise, right? That's the new flex, right? And I was like, okay.
Sounds cool.
Right? I was like, I can do that.
Yeah.
So I started taking my family on cruises. I started taking them on vacations. We went to Hawaii, we went to Jamaica, we went all the way to in Mexico. And I spent maybe 3 months vacationing, not working. So all the money that I had started going down. I didn't understand what self-employed was. I didn't understand what running a business was. And I didn't understand that if I didn't work, I didn't eat. I was literally having too much fun. And my money trickled down quick, fast, where my girl was like, I'm gonna pay the bills this next month. I'm like, I was like, yeah, it's coming. I couldn't work a deal to save my life.
Yeah.
I spent 2 months trying to close. I had 6 leads in my pipeline, right? And all my pipeline got depleted. Everybody called back when I came back, so done. I'm like, man, okay. I got back on the hustle. I was working a deal with Randy Guzman, who's an OG out here
R.I.P.
for a while,
Yeah.
right? Rest in
R.I.P.
peace, Randy. And it was gonna be a sweet deal. 60 grand, I was gonna make it. And this was gonna keep me going for a while. The house ended up being a mobile home. I don't know who built it, but they took a mobile home and built a house all the way around it. So Randy did his inspection. He was like, hey, Ray, that's the price that we agreed on, not gonna work. The whole house is unpermitted. He's like, we'll probably maybe pay 40, 50 grand for it. And I'm just like, what does that mean?
That's clever.
What is it?
You gotta be good to catch that, to be honest.
Yeah, there was something in the back. There was a little step that was weird.
Okay.
There was a step in the back that was weird, and I seen it. I just didn't think about it. It was a step in the back.
Because if you look at
weird.
the square footage, I mean, you're basically taking a mobile home, you're surrounding it.
Oh, this dude built this house, bro.
Curb appeal just
Bro, he
looks like a
built it.
house.
He built it. The way this dude, I don't know what this dude was an architect, and he built the house so nice, so beautiful. You couldn't tell like inside of it.
That's funny.
It was actually a mobile home
That's
at one
funny.
point. Yeah. No deal. No deal. Had to talk to my girl, like, man, I got to go back to work. I spent 2 months depressed. Bro, I wouldn't come out. I wouldn't talk to nobody. I came to an event where Steve Tran had an event. And he was like, hey, Ray, come out to the Disruptors event, right? I came in the room, and as soon as I seen everybody, bro, I ran back out. I straight ran back out. And I felt like I failed. I felt like I was a fraud, right? Like I couldn't hang out with these people. These people are like here, and I'm down here like faking it till I make it. Yep. And I was like, nah, I couldn't do it. Went home. I didn't come out of my house for 2 months.
Wow.
2 months. And my girl was like, she didn't bother me. Bills was running up high. We ended up filing bankruptcy. And I had to reset again. Went back to work, back to construction. All those people I said, F you, you're cool, right? I'm back now. And I did that for a whole year. Full whole year. To the point where I went back and I had this conversation with my mentor. My mentor is Brian Pontiano. Man, I literally cried on the phone with this dude, right? And I was like, man, I don't want to go back. He was like, it's okay. He was like, because when you go back now, you're going to have a different mindset, right? He's like, you got a taste of it now, and you know you can do it. You have a proof of concept, right? I didn't understand what the hell he was talking about. So I said, okay, all right. I went in, I worked. I got to a point where I'm just like, I can do better than this. Like, this is some bullshit. Mm-hmm. Like, I can make more, I can do more. There's so much more that I can tap into. And I got to a point where I just said, F everybody, I zoned out. Like I would go to lunch and I would bring my real estate books and I would be at lunch breaks, just no food. This is my meal. This is what I'm eating. And it took me a while to like redevelop myself, rebuild my knowledge, even though like I've wholesaled a few deals. Like I had to rebuild my courage back up. I had to rebuild myself back up, that I had to assure myself that I can actually make this leap. And year later, I said, F that. And I would go door knocking as soon as I got off of work. I would work from 4 a.m. Sometimes to like 5 to 6, slaving away, doing concrete. And as soon as I got off of work, bro, I would go door knocking. I'd door knock till 2 a.m. in the morning, nonstop. I had to develop this courage because I was actually scared of door knocking. I was terrified of door knocking. And for me, I don't like fear. I don't like when it controls me. Like I love fear. I just don't like when it controls me. And door knock for me, like the worst thing, it was like, oh, it was terrified. And I didn't know why it was so scary. Like for me, it's like, I would literally beat up the person on the other side of the door. In my mind, it's like, if somebody came out and like wanted a problem, we can have that problem. But I didn't have that. I was terrified, right? So my thoughts were like, yeah, I'll fight somebody. But on the inside, I was like, I'd sit in the car, I'd wait. Anybody who didn't answer the door, bro, was like a dream. Super dream. Like I knock on the door, no one answered. I'm just like, whew, all right, back in my car. Yeah. Back in my car. And it just irritated me where I was like, what is this thing I just can't get over? And I literally just was door knocking, all the way about 2 a.m. 2 a.m. bro, I would door knock. I've had weird conversations with people like, what are you doing here? And I was like, you told me to come back. I came back, so what's up? I'm trying to help you. I ran into a lady who was a drug addict, and I knocked on her door at 12 o'clock, and we literally hung out in her house till 2 a.m., 3 a.m., having conversations about her life, where she's been through, and I was like, look, I just want to help you out of your situation. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who talk to you, a lot of people try to help you out. I was like, I don't even know how I'm gonna help you out. I was like, but I'll find a way for you. And she was like, you know what? I like that. And she was like, I'll tell you what, if you can help me out, I'll do whatever you ask. She's like, I just don't want to go through this pain. I was like, I understand going through pain. I was like, it's a home for me when it comes to pain. I was like, and it's not cool to be there. She was like, all right. So I reached out to Alan Whitman. Alan Whitman was a guy I had met at one point, and that was the first deal I did creative financing on, and that was my startup money to come back into real estate. And I used that, and I started to build a team. I had a team around me of people door knocking, And I started to go really hard on door knocking until I got enough money to actually start my first office
Nice.
on the west side.
Pre-foreclosures?
Pre-foreclosures all day long. All day long.
Creative financing for the most part?
Yes and no, right? I didn't understand creative financing at the time. I was looking for these wholesale deals, and I didn't know majority of them are not wholesale deals. A lot of them, like the equity wasn't there or the situation wasn't there. Like just creative financing worked. I didn't understand that. For the lady that I helped out, she was just maxed out. Like she pulled a first, she pulled a second. She didn't have anything. And I was like, that's why no one could help her, right? Who was trying to wholesale it at the same time. And I was like, I don't know, I found somebody. So I found Alan, and he was like, Ray, this got to be done this way. And I was like, show me. Show me the way, my man.
Sub 2?
Show me the way. Sub 2.
Sub 2.
Sub 2. Sub 2. Love Sub 2.
Those pre-foreclosures too, they're like notoriously like difficult deals to work because like they avoid problems and they kick the can down the line. That's like how they get in that situation. So you kind of cut your teeth door knocking one and doing it at all hours. Like, you know what I mean? You kind of like put yourself through the gauntlet right off the rip, and I think that's probably what made you tough too.
And I would study too. I would spend my time at the library, and first of all, I learned that knowledge out here is free, right? In prison, you can't get any book. Like reading in there is a sin. Reading there. So I learned out here, like reading out here is worshipped. Like people like trying to get books, people from different countries that are just like, you guys get to read? So I got a library card, and I literally would read every book on pre-foreclosures. Every book I could read until I got to a point where I was like a master at I could tell you anything, loan modification, wraps. I could tell you anything about real estate and
That's what we're here for, man. Come on, give us some juice.
So I learned 14 different ways of helping people out, right, in pre-foreclosure. And it was called, the one that gave me the most knowledge was Foreclosure Survival Guide. And it actually was built for the people who are going through it, right, that this is the steps that you need to take, right? You got to call your bank, right? Shoot for a loan mod if they can help you out with a loan modification. I learned there's actually different ways to do loan modifications. You can put up collateral. You can kind of negotiate with the bank to actually make something work in your favor. You can put up a friend's house. You can put up any type of assets you got. If you got real actual assets, they'll take an actual asset loan modification, right? Not all banks, some will. And I started to actually put a little letter together of the different ways that you can be helped out, right? And I started to learn there's phases for people who are going through it. Loan modification, close to like the 30 days, probably out of the question, right? So I got real good at it where I noticed that people who were actually going through the pre-foreclosure, there was actually a timeline for the strategies that would actually work for you, right? So I'm just like, okay, so it was, if I caught you in the beginning, right, I know you could do a loan modification. I know it would work for you, right? And if it wasn't that, your next option was you can either do the real serious options where you could do loan modification. If the bank wasn't willing to do that, put it in the back, put it on the front. You can do deed of luau, right? You can give up the house. They actually do a thing where you can put the keys in the mailbox and just walk away from the house, right? Which is the same as deed of luau. Or you can do bankruptcy, which I've been through, and I understand the concept of a Chapter 7 and a Chapter 12, and understand a Chapter 13. A Chapter 13, you can actually keep the house. A Chapter 7, you're giving all that back, right? And you got to deal with your creditors. And it allowed me to actually talk to homeowners who were trying to do bankruptcy, thinking about bankruptcy. I can explain to them, like, look, if you're going to do bankruptcy, what are you going to do? Like, do you have the finances to back it? If not, you're probably looking at a Chapter 7. At that point, you're going to buy another house. You're going to be screwed for the next 7 to 10 years on your credit, right? There's nothing you can really do. And I would literally talk them down to your best option is probably to work with the bank first. The bank's not willing to work with you. You don't have the money to do it. You probably want to sell it. And I really got really good at it where I can like talk people into like, you don't want to do that. Most people are trying to save the house. They 100% want to save the house. all the way through, and I kind of worked them out. Like, you can save the house. You got to talk to your family members first. Like, call everybody up, tell them you need a little bit of money, tell them you need a loan. All the people that hate you, don't talk to you, right? Call them up, see if they can help you out. That's your first step, right? Call your bank. Make sure your bank's like on board. Let them know about your situation. See if they provide some relief to help you out. And for me, doing that, it made me really good at door knocking. I know that when people are going through it, there's 5 levels. There's so there's 5 stages of grief, right? They actually apply to pre-foreclosures, right? So there's acceptance. There's no. You guys remember the 5 levels of grief?
That's like what, like disbelief,
Denial.
Yeah.
Right.
Anger.
Negotiations. Right.
Okay.
There's a 4th one in there, right? The last one is acceptance. So I notice when I'm knocking on doors and I'm talking to people, right, I can tell you which stage they are in, right? If you knock on the door, you'll talk to them like, hey, I'm here to help you out with your pre-foreclosure, right? What pre-foreclosure?
Right.
Denial, okay? If I go knock on the door and I'm talking to them, like, yeah, how can you help me? What can you do for me? Negotiating, right? And the best way in the sweet spot is to catch people when they're in acceptance. That's where you want to catch them. When you catch people in acceptance, like the timing is like right now, and you'll never know what that timing is. You literally got to follow up with people and stick to them and figure out like when are they in acceptance. That's when they're like, all this is not going to go away. I need some help.
And if they're not at the stage of acceptance, you're coming equipped with value.
Yeah.
And you're almost creating like a process of elimination. Like, hey, where are you? What's the note? How far are we out? When's the sale? Is there a date? Right? Have you done X? Is the bank gonna work with you? No. Okay. Eliminate that. Now we're next to the X. All right. Have you tried reaching out to a friend, doing this, that, trying to get some money to save this? Oh no, I don't have this. That is eliminated. Then they get to the point where it's like they're saying it and you're not saying it. Like, hey, I want to work with you because you're my easiest option. You're the easy button. Now, most people I talk to in pre-foreclosures or in foreclosure, and like literally like then tomorrow there's a sale, they don't know that you can stop that.
Yeah.
They don't know that. They don't know that you can stop a foreclosure just like that. I helped a lady out a while back in Tempe. This was about 2 years ago. She was in foreclosure. And I called the trustee. And we tried to figure out a way to stop the foreclosure. And all they cared about was getting their money. Did a promise for them to get their money within 60 days. Mm-hmm. We did it in 24. She was saved. It was a great deal. Didn't make crazy amount, but it was good to help people.
Did you keep
I
the
think
house?
the most important. No, we wholesaled it. I didn't know much about creative finance then, but I think it's super important to lead with value. I think no matter what circumstance somebody's going into, or no matter what circumstance somebody's in, it's super important for them to understand that in order for them to give up something, they have to receive something, right? Whether it's, even from a realtor standpoint, you have to listen to people and understand their problem before you can go out and start speaking value or pouring value. How are you supposed to be valuable when you don't know what your counterpart is actually needing? Mm-hmm. Right? It's like going to a doctor and he just says, Ray, I can see in your eyes, looks like you're getting cancer. I'm going to prescribe you to this. And you're just like, dude, what? No, man, I'm not going into foreclosure. I'm not trying to sell my house. It's cash flowing. Like, I'm good. I don't need cash. I don't need you to buy it as is. I don't need you to take my stuff and for me to take what I want. And that's what a lot of wholesalers do, man, is they go in and they're like, I'll buy your house as is. I'll buy your house cash. I'll do this for you. I'll like, dude, relax. Be conversational first. Learn, listen, and then prescribe. Right, I get a lot of my sales guys when they like are negotiating deals or like they're talking. I'm like, all right, give me a breakdown. What's the seller's situation? What's going on? What are they going through? How can we help them? Right? And then they start talking about this, and they're older, they're this and that. I'm like, okay, Have they found a new place to go into?
Haven't thought about it. Didn't ask.
Didn't ask.
Right.
Then you could have been way more valuable than the next person because now you understand what they're going through, and you can drop that nugget of value to say, hey, Mr. Seller, would it help you if we took on all the unwanted things that you didn't want in the house? Just simple as that. Hey, would it help you if I connected you with one of the realtors that we work with in our network? They'll work for you for free. You get a professional to represent you, and you can buy a house. And the best part about it is we keep it in-house so that we can coordinate so you're not homeless. And we're flexible. We'll work with you.
And a lot of times they'd be like, oh, you can do that?
They don't even know,
Yeah.
man. They don't know. You'd be surprised how many people don't even know how real estate agents get paid, right? They don't know that a seller pays for everything. People come to open houses, they look at me and they're like, don't take my money, man. Like, whoa, do you know that I can work for free for you? Like, you get a professional to represent you for free? What? Word? Closing costs. What's closing costs? Title company. My favorite line is I always tell all my guys is to ask, Mr. Seller, have you ever sold a home before?
No. Which most of them, this is the first time.
It size them up.
The
It
first
size them up so much. Because then they understand, like, hey, I know that I don't need to tell this person what a deed is. I don't have to, like, explain to them, in big terms. I can dumb it down. Like, hey, title. Just like your car, there's a title to the house, right? To transfer this, there's a third-party company, like the MVD. Right? You've sold a car before, right? Hey, everybody's sold a freaking car before. So dumb it down to the level where they understand it. Because people get anxiety, man. This is the highest ticket price that they have. This is the most amount of money that they'll ever have in their bank account.
And there's a phase in there between everybody's trying to get paid,
Yeah.
right? We're all trying to get paid, right? If you lead with value, right, it's more important than getting paid, right? And you notice when people do that, you actually hook them with some honesty, some truth, right? We're all calling. There's tons of us making the same calls, same scripts, talking to the same people.
Right.
Like they've already heard it before. But when you start adding something in there with some real meat on it, some real value, like, hey, did you know that we can, like, well, I'll help you move, right? Really? Yes. I'll pay for the pod. Yes, I'll do all that. When you start adding those little things in it gives you a personal touch that most people in this industry don't do or won't do because of company policies or just ethics or whatever reason. But it actually pushes you in front of everybody who's calling.
I think sellers actually look for that.
They want it.
They want it so bad.
They want it.
They just want that person that genuinely can feel their pain. And that's why I focus with my guys on like labeling their issues and through that one of my favorite books, Never Split the Difference. Chris Voss talks about this.
Yeah.
And he says, the labeling the emotions and identifying those things and verbalizing it to people, it automatically makes them feel safer. And it helps them realize that, this is a matter of fact. Like, this is what's going on. And this is what we're at. Here's where you're at. And this is how I'm going to bridge that gap. And this is how I'm going to make this a win-win situation. And when you lead with value, people, they pull towards you. You can get to a point. I used to do this a lot with people at open houses where you get to the point where people are so in sync with you that if I took steps back, they took steps forward. If I leaned this way, they lean in this, and they mirror and match and they follow. And that's just human psychology. We're so attracted to familiarity, man. We want something that's familiar, that it makes us feel safe. So matching the tone and matching the energy makes people just automatically feel safe. Now, to add to the fact that the person that I'm talking to on the phone has experienced what I'm experiencing right now and has the solution that I need for what I need to accomplish. That's the ultimate goal of a salesperson, I think, in my opinion, is for you to reach to that point, because any seller, any counterpart that you're trying to, negotiate with, you're trying to solve a problem. If there's no problem to solve, then that's not a fit. There's nothing to be had. Literally, you're wasting your time. Unless you're scammer, and you're just like
It cuts down your opportunities, basically, like people that you can just get the price down.
Yeah.
And that's on the spectrum of all the different deals you can do. That's like a small fragment
Right.
of people that you can just get down on price.
Right.
But for people that need their problem solved, that's like a huge gamut, and that's like something that people aren't the average person isn't good at uncovering those problems or giving value that's not strictly transactional. I think there's difference, like when you offer help in a transactional way, or if you do something, I don't know, not selflessly, but like without strings attached. Like a line we use in the script is, hey, look, we're not a match for every seller that we talk to, but I promise either way, if we're not a match, I'm gonna help you any way I can, and we're gonna part ways as friends. Does that sound fair? Right? And like little things like that, because people can tell too when you're setting them up for like, you know what I mean? Like you're setting them up to knock them down.
Right.
But when it's coming from a genuine place, and when you seek to understand instead of seeking to be understood, I think that's a huge thing too. Because like, if you can uncover
that's a bar.
their problems,
I love that.
Like, right, if you can uncover their problems, then like people. The sellers at the end of the day, like they just want the problem solved,
Right.
and everybody's thinking about like, how can I get the price down? And really, if you just focus on how can I give this person what they want, then all those other things like become like, because in your mind it's all about the price, but for them it's all about them getting what they want done. So, you know what I mean? It's like if you look at it, if you reverse engineer it away from the price thing, but just like, look, how would there be a way where I could give this seller everything they want? Then the price and all that will catch up, because that it becomes a smaller portion of the total equation. And a lot of times they don't know all the different risk factors and all these different moving parts where you actually can provide value. They just think like, look, I just need as much money as I can for their house. But they don't realize, you can hire someone to move my stuff. You can help me avoid this. You can help, you know what I mean? All these other little things. And now the price is like, overall, they see it as like a much smaller part of the equation. It's true. Because it does take energy and, to be able to line all these things up and take this complicated situation and provide like a all-inclusive solution. But that's where the magic happens. Too.
Right.
Right? When you, I'm sure you guys have hit deals like that where you're like, man, I'm so glad they came into my pipeline, because some scumbag would have really screwed this person up.
Oh, yeah.
Or there's no way, like, they would have lost their house.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if it wasn't me on this deal, I already know. Like, because these other people, they wouldn't care the way that I do. Like, they wouldn't have taken that late call. They wouldn't have done this or that or helped them move. So it is satisfying, but it's like that extra mile is like where the magic happens, and that all those little extra things make it from. It may seem like a little thing, but it can make all the difference too. It could be the difference between it happening or not happening.
And
You go ahead. No, I got a good point for that. Go ahead.
I feel like that's the separator, right?
Yeah.
The separator is everybody puts up a wall, like a huge, huge wall. So when you're talking to sellers, like the first thing they do is like, bam, right? And it's usually price. Here's my price. Either you make it happen or you don't. And for me, the way I look at it is I look at it as an objection, right? I look at it as an objection. And for me, I ask people, okay, if I can give you that price, okay, is there anything else that's important? And I literally take that objection and I put it to the side for now. We'll get back to it. But I start to look at like what's important for a person, right? What do they really want? It's never really the price, or it's never the first thing that people actually throw up in front of you, right? There's something that's more deeper than that. Where you're moving to, right? What's your next step?
I love that, yeah.
Right. Have you thought about closing costs? And there's a process that we understand. Like we understand the real estate process, but for them, this is like their first house they probably ever bought or sold. So they don't really understand the process. And the moment you can kind of help them through that and you get rid of that wall, you knock it down, right? You get to actually see the person as a human being, and you can see what they really need. What's their real problem? And you notice it's never really the price, right?
That's
It's never
just
the price.
Thing they know. That's the easiest thing to label
Yeah.
and to quantify.
Yeah.
something that one of my sales guys uses all the time, and it's something that I picked up too. Is he says, Ray, I mean, if you were to sell your property, whether it's to me or anybody else, I mean, why would you? Right? And then their response is always emotional, right? And then the other part of it is always going back to that emotional, juice.
Touching that.
Poke
Touching that.
those pain points.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are scared of that. Ask those tough questions. But I think it's very, very important. I think that's what separates you from that next person that calls.
You have to do that too, because they have these natural defenses, and them avoiding that. Those are the things that keep them up at night. Is it seems kind of oh man, I'm being this or that way by bringing that up, but they need to be reminded of that.
Yeah.
Just like we all do, right? We all have things we know we're doing wrong, but we're still doing it, and a real friend or a real family member will be look, man, Rich, you said you were going to do this, this, and that, and now, look, you're right back doing the same thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas, we need to be reminded, and we need that repetition. It's you have to have the courage to be able to bring those things back up, because if not, they're just going to protect themselves mentally, but then they're walking off a cliff still, especially pre-foreclosure. Oh no, I'll get this loan money, I'll get this, I'll get
I got
that.
everything figured out.
But you have to have that moment of
It's pride, man. That's the truth about. Me personally, if I'm going through something, I'm gonna build up a wall. I'm not gonna sit here and pour my heart out to a stranger that just calls me out the blue. I need to feel that sense of connection. I say this all the time. People like to work with people they like and trust.
Yes.
And that is absolute truth. And the one thing I was gonna say when Rich mentioned that earlier is, the person that is in charge is the salesperson.
Always.
The person that is vulnerable is the seller.
Always.
Okay? So as a salesperson, I think of it I always use the metaphors of relationships. Guys and girls. You're not going to have sex with a girl that she doesn't know you. Okay? She needs to know that your intentions are right. You need to make her feel safe. You need to do a lot of things to prep and make it worthwhile, because guess what? There's a bunch of guys out there that would do the same thing. They got a little pee-pee and they're willing to do, the dangling. Everybody's willing to do that. What separates you as that one guy that she would open her legs for? It's the same thing for the seller. But it goes beyond that. As the person who's in charge, I need to figure out the biggest part of sales, right? Biggest part in selling anything to anybody is understanding who you're selling to. And if you're not selling to the right person, it's not going to work, right? So understanding in relationships, again, making a relationship work that doesn't work is only wasting time. It's only time wasted. So it's the same thing with conversations with sellers that we have. No matter how good of a conversation you have, and I have a lot of good conversations with sellers. Some really good stuff. I was talking to a guy out of Miami. He's from New York, and the guy was phenomenal, man. He had his New York accent, sound. He was getting down in politics and all this, and told him my story, and I realized that I'm talking to him out of pleasure, nothing more. I know this guy is not the right fit for me. But I because I acknowledged that, I knew that at this point in my life, I'm a much better salesperson. Because at this point, I know I'm wasting my time, but I'm just taking a break. I'm chatting with an old buddy of mine. That's it. Another seller is the same situation. It's bringing that back to that familiar feeling of, I have one of my guys who struggles with talking to people, talking to sellers. Really good at questions that he asks, understands the business and understands the process. But his biggest thing is he doesn't drop the sales pitch, right? So I told him, I said, listen,
Okay.
treat him as if it's an old high school buddy that you're just reconnecting with. Build the emotion. Forget the house. Forget the price. Forget everything that you're doing. I want you to focus on getting this person to sound like them, to be like them, to connect with them, to be at a frequency that they haven't felt before, and gravitate them to where they talk more than you talk, because the person that talks more loses, in my opinion. Today, fucking crushing it, bro. He's amazing.
So there's a process. Like for me and my guys, there's a process I show them about. I use the girl concept. Right.
It's good.
There's
So
friend
good.
zone
Yeah.
and there's business. Right? And there's that in between. So when you're talking to a girl, every guy immediately gets friend zone, right?
Yeah.
And you have to come in as a friend,
Yeah.
right? Build that relationship, build that rapport, right? That helps take that wall down, right? And makes her feel comfortable, feel secure. But for most guys, is when you're in that friend zone, and with the seller as well, is most guys don't shoot for the kill, right?
Right.
Right?
I see where you're going
Okay.
with this. I like this.
You don't shoot for the kill. Or
Yeah.
you're too business,
Yeah.
right? And it's like you talking to a girl, like, hey girl, I'm trying to hit it tonight. What's
Yeah.
up, right? She's like, whoa, all right, we just met. Like, it's too quick, too fast,
Facts.
right? A lot of people do that. They're too much. They're too business. They come in like, hey, I'll buy your house right now, all cash, right?
Right.
Let's go. And the seller's just like, no, I'm not ready for that. And there's a little bit of finesse in between the two, right? You definitely have to come in friend zone first. Okay. When you get somebody to know you, like you, and trust you, they're definitely gonna want to do business with
Facts.
you, right? But at some point, you got to be that guy that at some point is gonna hit it, right? Right?
You have
And
that twinkle in your eye.
gotta have it,
You
bro.
can get,
You got
get
it.
it done.
You gotta have it, right?
Yeah.
I have guys who do the same thing where they do the friend zone thing and they get friend zone,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Hey, we're having countless hours of conversation, right? Well, you just got pushed out the pictures.
Right.
You're no longer in business. You can't take care of business. You
Right.
can never buy this house.
Right.
Pushed you to the side, right? You have to know when is the right time to shoot for the kill, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of time you have to redirect people. After we have these little conversations, we figure out where we're going, what's up, right?
That's
You
the
like
hardest
me,
part.
I like-
Absolutely.
That
I
redirect.
agree. I agree. The transition from rapport building to actually talking business.
So the way I set up for my guys is, for the people who have that trouble, we do an alley-oop. We do a good cop, bad cop. You're thinking.
Yeah. No, that's interesting.
Because we're a team, we can all play off each other's weaknesses and strengths, right? There's some guys who are really good at report,
Yeah.
right? So that's the guy you send in first. Go ahead, build a report, right? But if he can't shoot for the kill and he can't do business, then we do a level up. We actually pass it to a business partner or a CEO of the company, right? But it could be just two acquisition guys having fun, right?
I think that you're right. I think that system works. I tried this, but I think what's more powerful than that is, while somebody's building rapport, they need to answer one of two questions.
Which is,
Okay. The question that I'm asking, is it open-ended or closed-ended?
open.
Open,
Yeah.
but not all the time. You shouldn't have continuously open-ended questions, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think you should have a mixture, because one validates and the other one inquires.
100%.
Okay, one that inquires is more important because that gets them to elaborate more. So tell me more about that, right? But the second question, I think the most important is this question for me, or is this question for them? And I think a person who can identify that question, the second part more specifically, is the question that I'm asking for them or for me, I think that puts them at a little bit of an advantage. Why? Because that question, if it's for me, then that is ammunition for me to use to actually secure the business part.
Yeah.
And then once you start to identify more of those ammunitions, more of those questions that you've given out, like the motivation, the timeline, and all these things, then you're able to package that, whether you pass it on to somebody else or just transition over into actually closing the deal. So I think it's deeply rooted in the actual conversation, because yeah, you can be personable, you can be liked, and you can be nice, and you can be friend zoned, and you can be in that friend zone, but it's like, hey, when it's business, there's that pivotal moment that you get to, but you can't have that pivotal moment unless you truly understand what your counterpart is all about, right? And so that's where it comes in. I think that dropping the report and passing it on to somebody else, I think what that does is it creates a little bit of resistance with the seller. because now they went from talking. It's like me and my brother, me building rapport with the girl, me getting her to like me going on a date with her, and then by the time I come to sleep with you, I say, hey, I can't sleep with you. I'm gonna pass you on to my brother.
Hey, I hear you, but here's my pushback on this, right?
I got some too.
So I would say it like this, right? It depends. It depends on how the closer is too, because it could be the girl that went to the bar to meet a guy. She's talking to the first guy, and then the closer comes in, and then that's the one
Thumbs them up.
where she's like, oh good, finally what I'm looking for.
Yes.
So if you have a really good closer, I think necessarily like the person that's building all the rapport on the front end, I think a lot of times they think they're doing a lot more than they really are. Because I think like stage one is proving you're not a threat, right? And that's where you get in the friend zone, right? And then stage two is showing you actually have value and you can solve their problem and make it happen. So I think a lot of people just get into like, I'm not a threat, yay, let's talk, but they can't handle it. But then the people that are just all business, then they come in, they are a threat. They're like, dude, they're all business. Like they just want to take my money, you know? Or like with the girl, man, this guy is just a womanizer. You know what I mean? There's no real value here. This is just like someone trying to take value from me.
Yes.
Right? But yeah, no, dude, I'd love to hear your take on it. Because like the whole passing over to closer, that model has been proven for like a long time. Like, you know what I mean? Car sales, we did it in Kirby. It's like universal, like.
It's the method that comes from the dealership.
Yeah.
Right? As soon as you go into a dealership, all the 10 guys sitting out front are already scoping you. Hey, bro, need some help looking for a car?
What's up,
yes.
boss?
Right? That was like, what do you want to drive? Oh, I like this. Let's go get the keys. Let's go test drive it.
Yeah.
Right? And they're already setting you up for the alley-oop. Okay? Once you get you to drive it, okay, you know me, you like me, we're sitting in the car, we're personable, we get to talk, right? We start to build a relationship. Good. You want to come sit down? Maybe we talk some numbers. Maybe you like it. Maybe you don't. Who knows? Okay. In that process, that person leaves, right? When you get really, really close. Okay. And it goes to somebody else who is like top dog, knows his shit, right? He's like, okay, this number doesn't work. This number doesn't work. I can move this. I can do this. I can do this. You put this down. Now you get the car. All right. That system is a proven system. It works in all industries, especially for sales.
Right.
For real estate, it works good. And if you're a person who is stuck on being friend zone, I think partnering with somebody who has those skills teaches you that, right? When you can learn from the person who's business, right? And you can see, damn, that's how he talked to that girl. He literally just asked her out, right?
Right.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
Let me try that. And you can learn the opposite side. The person who's all business can see like, man, he spent, I would not have spent that much time on the phone with the seller, right? I have. But when I see other people who are really good at it and they spend this much time, it's like, wow, you got farther than I would have ever gotten on the phone, right? And the person whose business gets to learn to be that friend zone, right? And the sweet spot is right in between. When you can be friend, they trust you, they value you, your opinion. Anything you say is like, hey, I think you should do this option, right?
And you start seeing the openings too, where
Oh.
you can move it from the friend zone to, oh, boom, here's my line I'm gonna take. You see it like open up with the conversation, for sure.
And it's, you know, the repetition of it. I think that every conversation with the seller, the overarching theme is pretty similar, right? They got a situation. I know these are the services that I provide, and this is what I can do to help this person. And it's real estate. You know, I'm not like selling a house one day. I'm selling a car one day, and I'm selling, you know, whatever the next day. It's the same pretty much, but the repeated pattern of doing it over and over and over and over again. I think that
It builds the calluses.
Absolutely.
It builds the calluses.
Then it's just like, hey, I know how to handle this person, and I can identify and categorize a person just based off of the conversation within like a few seconds of talking to them. I can label them and I can put them into a certain category, and then I try to work on trying to facilitate that transaction the way I want it, because I'm the professional. So,
And I think a lot of times too, like This is one last thing because I know we're running on
Oh,
time.
yeah.
But one thing for a really good salesperson, right? Because once you start getting it and you see these openings on how you can transition, just because you can figure it out fast and you're like, okay, I know my next 5 moves on this. Like I see this opening, but you still have to go through that process. You can't just shoot right to it.
No.
I think a lot of people, that's how they get success, but then it's not consistent because they're like, oh man, I just last time I went boop, 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 boop. But what if I just go, bruh?
Right.
And then you try to do that, and then the other person's like, whoa.
Right.
You know what I mean? You
much.
just pulled your thing out. Like,
Too much. Too much.
You're like, oh wow, I brought you flowers, you like that. All right, here you go. It's like, no, slow down.
Yeah.
But I love sales, man, because it's so challenging, and it just goes in with just humans and psychology, and it's just it's very intellectually stimulating. And when you get it right, it feels so good too.
Yeah.
Getting that, but
It really changes your life too, like the way you interact with people in general. Like
just being able to provide value, being a person of value, right?
being able to communicate.
Communicate.
You know, it's like the relationships that you cultivate throughout your life. If you can be a good salesperson, you will be a good partner. You will be a good friend.
100%.
You will be a good father. You know, because people can come to you and you can talk and listen to them and understand why they're going through what they're doing. And I think that's why we read all the books that we talk about all the time, like 48 Laws of Power, Never Split the Difference, and all these different people who break down the things that we know are to be true. And this is something I wanted to talk to you earlier about with books, right? When you go in, like right now, we're diving deep into sales and we're trying to, peel it back layer by layer and trying to get to understand it more. I think that the most beautiful thing about life is that it's complex. Interactions are complex. Everything is complex. Your life, my life, your life, everybody's life is complex. But the beauty of it is when we cross paths, we're not supposed to imprint everything. Like I'm not supposed to remember every single detail of what Ray said today on the podcast. Mm-hmm. What I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to gather bullet points, the most important things that really captivated me, and take those and actually that identifies Ray for me going forward. Same thing with sales. I go through a sales book, I read it, I don't read the entire book and memorize word by word, I just take those bullet points and I take that, right? And it's the same thing about understanding anything that is complex in life, is to not understand the entire system. It's to understand the most applicable things that you can take and actually implement and change your life and change your trajectory. So I think that is the most powerful thing that we have to understand, because a lot of the things that we read are true, and like you see something on TikTok or on Instagram and then you read it and you're like, oh, that's so true. I like that. Cool. Next.
Yeah, you move on.
Move on. It's the same thing with the book that you read and like you don't actually, it doesn't resonate. It may a little bit, but you forget about it. That's why the books, reading it multiple times, it helps you learn new things every single time. So it's the same thing about the complexity of topics that we dive into every single day. So, I just encourage people not to go into something with an expectation. I think you should go into things.
That's hard.
Yeah, it is hard.
It's impossible.
It is. It is impossible. But I think that the expectation should be that I'm going to get something out of this, not what I envision I want out of it, just something, whether it's good or bad. It's not good or bad. We always label things good or bad. Like we were talking about influence, right? Everything is influence around us. The person that's watching this today, right now, they're probably influenced by the words that are coming out of my mouth. Whether it's good or bad, it's up to them. If they think I'm talking nonsense, that's based on their perspective. Mm-hmm. But somebody out there is going to conceptualize and understand it and appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Therefore, they're going to label it good or bad. So there's no really metric of good or bad in the world. It's just a matter of what are you doing. We talked about Thanos, right? Same thing. Mm-hmm. And this, Deshaun talked about it as well. He was trying to do something that made sense to him. That was his reality. That was his truth. That was his perception. It's not good or bad, but to you, it's good or bad. So
Ray, why don't you let everyone know
how they can get a hold of you, like how can someone, if someone's got a deal and they're like, look, I got this, like what kind of deals are you looking for? Like if someone wants to just bring value to you, or like what value are you trying to get out to the world? Just as kind of like a call to action for everyone that's hearing your story for the first time and like, dude, I resonate with him. Like how can someone get in touch with you and do business with you?
So the first way is to call me, right? My phone number is 602-575-5827. Okay. I take direct calls. So I'm always trying to be a person that you can get a hold of. Second is Instagram, Ray Spencer the Investor. You can find me there. I'm on Facebook, Ray Spencer. The things that I'm trying to contribute to people is I want to be able to help anybody look at any deal, right? I don't care what it is. Like the knowledge that I acquired, I want to give that knowledge back, whether it was negotiating with the seller, whether it was doing a creative financing deal, whether it's an novation, whether it's a sub 2 or lease option, if it's a wholesale deal, if it's negotiations. I'm that person. You can call me. You can reach out to me. I do 11 different states, okay? But I'll look at any deal in any state and I'll help any person. I'm not trying to do it for any money. I'm super good when it comes to wealth. I want to actually give people back the knowledge that I've gained. And if you bring a deal to me, we'll look at it, we'll evaluate it. If you want to work a deal, JV with me, you can, right? If you don't, I'll still help you out, right? I'll still want to be human with people and help you out. Like, this is how you should negotiate it. This is what you should say. This is what the next move is. I have a buyer for it. I don't have a buyer for it. I can find you a buyer. That's kind of how I am with people. I'm very transparent on what I do in this business.
It's awesome.
I love that.
Thank you, man. Thank you for taking the time to share with us your story, first of all, and thank you for being vulnerable. It takes a lot of courage, but we appreciate it, and I can't wait to see what's next, man. I can't wait to see what other versions that Ray takes on and forms.
Can I 14.0?
Can I throw it out?
Yeah, please.
Right now is I got my wholesale company with a few partners that they run it, right? I'm jumping into multifamily industry and commercial. And the next step for Ray is owning a lot of apartments, a lot of apartments.
Units.
And I want to be able to go to different neighborhoods and show people how to buy fourplexes, triplexes, 200 units, 300 units. That's my next step for Ray. While the wholesale is doing the wholesale thing, I'm jumping really heavy into the multifamily space, and I want to master that and get my team set up for that. So I do both sides. I do creative financing, I do residential, I do commercial at the same time. So my next level is hitting that big check.
I remember us talking about some of your plans. I won't spill the beans on your master plan, but this guy has something cooking for sure. Like he's got
amazing.
Some big things coming. So
amazing.
I'm excited for you, man. I really feel like you deserve all the success you're seeing, and your events are awesome and crazy. And I think you're making like a big noise where people are seeing like, dude, like this guy's the real deal. Like he's out here just giving value, and like you said, like, dude, like I'll help you whether we work a deal or not. But honestly, like if I came to you for a deal and you're giving me all this value, I'd be like, dude,
most people do.
Let's just work it, man. Like you're already, you know what I mean? So I think that's just such a great mindset. And dude, I love your story, man. I've resonated with you just kind of from the very beginning, when I came to your first event, I saw like we had mutual friends and everything. So I'm really happy that you came on here, man. And I'm excited to see what's next for you, dude. It's going to be big things.
For everybody tuning out there, go follow my man, Ray Spencer, the Investor, on Instagram, and tune in to what this guy posts on his stories. It's really powerful stuff. And I don't want to spill this yet, but my man is working on something very, very good. Something similar to what we're doing here. So tap into that. Ray Spencer, this man is always up to something. So go tap in and show love to him and his team. And thank you guys for tuning in. REI Allies signing out.
Let's go.
Woo!